Okay, I'd like to call this meeting to order. Please hold your comments until I open the agenda items for public comment. When addressing us, state your full name, both in person and on Zoom. It is suggested that you enter both your full name as your ID on Zoom. Minutes, none presented. Board and committee appointments, none presented. Consent agenda, none presented. Any select board reports?
No, sir.
No. Okay, unfinished business, review and approval of public space application fees.
This is a continuation from last week, really just added in a few words, tightened things up. Had some additional input from Katrina that was added that you see here, specifying a per permit, just in case people thought that that 250 maximum was forever, but we pretty much put the wording in that we discussed last week and ready to go.
Can I ask a question about it? What about electricity? Who pays for that? Or, I mean, are there outlets for electricity down there? Because some things, if there was a lot of electricity used, like, I don't know what they might use it for, but if it was, that seems like it would be something anybody would want to.
To my knowledge, I think that there may be some sources, but I don't know of anything major, but unfortunately I haven't been through a summer yet, so I don't know the answer to that one.
Before we do anything with it, should we check it out and see how much?
Or are you thinking additional fees if they're using electricity?
Yeah, like down at the dock, if you plug in the shore power, they get pretty good amount of money for the plug-in. You know, it wouldn't have to be that much, but it would be worth at least looking into it, I would think.
Okay. Not something I don't know one way or the other, so we can research it further and table it for now.
Yeah.
And remember, it's not just the village green, this is all the public spaces,
Yeah,
including Summersby Park, which I doubt if.
No, I don't think they have any.
Yeah.
There's no, I mean, even if, I don't even know if you could meter it down there, but.
But
Anyway,
maybe we could put a note, like, if electricity is used, it's $20 a day or whatever.
Fee, yeah.
I mean, they're not allowed to have amplified sound, so that's,
So we'll table it.
okay. So do we need a motion to
Okay.
table it?
Yes,
No.
we do.
I would move that we table this until further investigation regarding consumables like electricity.
Second. Okay, all in favor? Unanimous. All right, presentation by Ariel Moran of Families First.
Hello, I'm actually Shayna Frazier. I'm the executive director, so I decided to step in for Ariel tonight, just so that she wouldn't have to come at 6 with her little boy. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to present when we kind of dropped the ball last time with some staffing turnover and changes. So we are requesting funding from the town of Mount Desert Island because we serve the entirety of Hancock County, including MDI. What we do at Families First is we provide families with self-sustainability skills. We serve families who are homeless or facing homelessness in our residential program. And so those families come in and live with us and stay with us for 12 to 24 months. By the time they leave, they are meaningfully employed. Some of them have post-secondary credentials. They've obviously gained access to healthcare, safe and stable childcare, parenting skills, cooking skills, budgeting skills, skills and knowledge on how to build and keep a good credit score, so on and so forth. So clearly in our residential program, it's a very intimate setting where we're able to work one-on-one very often with the people that live with us. We have 7 apartments on site. Aside from that, we have a very robust outreach program where we serve. Our outreach program has actually increased over the past 3 years. So in 2023, we served 114 individuals in Hancock County. And in 2024, we served 260 families in Hancock County. And then in 2025, we served 300 families in Hancock County. So the families that live with us have to have at least one minor child in their custody. But the families that we serve on an outreach basis can be anybody. It could be elderly people, it could be veterans, it could be people that don't have children, it could be people that are living with their uncle. That we're pretty liberal in that program. So a lot of times what we're doing is a lot of homeless prevention services. So we've paid back taxes, back property taxes so that people don't lose their homes. We've done, emergency food orders. We've done a ton of referrals and leveraging resources and funding with multiple other area agencies and organizations, oftentimes working with other shelters and Home Inc. To put together funds to be able to keep people from losing their homes. We also work one-on-one with people to help them to get employment exposure, to help them on life plans, setting goals. We also have a very small case management program where we're doing case management for anybody in the community who is homeless or facing homelessness. We've paid, like I said, we are completely privately funded. I'm not sure if you guys are aware of that, but we don't classify as a homeless shelter. So we don't get any state or any government funding whatsoever. We are 100% funded by grants, small foundations, our local area towns, and our fundraising efforts. And so that is why we approach MDI to ask for funding. Does anybody have any questions?
Katrina.
So you speak about going to MDI. So are you going to the town of Bar Harbor and the town of the Southwest Harbor and the town of Tremont as well?
We approach all towns, all 37, I think, towns in Hancock County. Yep. We don't get funding from all towns. A lot, depending on the town, we'll get consistent funding from many towns. Other area towns will tell us, you have to get 65 signatures, or other towns will kind of say, that's not our problem. We're not funding that. So it's very, very different town to town.
You ask for the same amount from each town?
No.
How is your amount determined?
Usually how many people we serve in that particular town, like we ask for, across the board, we usually ask right around $1,000 from most of our towns. For example, Ellsworth and Bucksport and Franklin, there's a couple towns that we tend to serve more heavily. So, say 65 or 70% of our people that we assist live in Ellsworth. So we usually approach Ellsworth for a little bit more money than we do our other towns.
Thank you. Good.
You're
Any
welcome.
questions? Anything at all? Thank you very much, Shana.
Thank you, Shana.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, a presentation by Tawny Desjardins of WIC.
Hi. A new old WIC lady. I worked for them for a while and then I took a side quest and now I'm back. So last year we had 12 residents of Mount Desert participate in the WIC program. WIC stands for Women, Infants, and Children. We are a federal program that provides participants with a nutritious food package that they can redeem at local grocery stores, as well as a fleet of hospital-grade electric breast pumps, which are like $1,000 a piece that they can loan for as long as they need them. We have certified lactation consultants and a breastfeeding peer counselor program to help them reach their breastfeeding goals. And we can get a food package from the moment they find out they're pregnant until they are either 6 months postpartum if they choose to formula feed, or a year postpartum if they breastfeed, till their child turns 5. We recently, as of March 19th, in a couple of weeks, are reopening our old Southwest Harbor Outreach Clinic to better serve the participants here on the island. So that will start soon. So we're hoping to see our numbers increase because we know it is transportation's a barrier to get to the mainland sometimes. So
Questions? Thank you.
yeah.
Thank you.
Profit funding request recommendations and vote.
It should have the updated version in the packet listing off all the amounts that have been requested at this point in time. We have made it through everyone in here has now presented. So it's under the 2026 funding application requests to pass along to warrant committee.
Did you move the warming center funding? Okay.
Yes, I put it in here as well.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Good. Right. Take a motion.
What's the final amount? Sorry, I don't.
One sec. Of this particular category, if we are not including the VIS, $110,219.
And that would be putting the VIS as an MOU.
Which VIS?
The Village Improvement Societies were $66,000 last year and $66,000 this year. I'm struggling whether I should be including in this or not, because whichever path I take seems to be the wrong one.
I guess I would suggest that we leave them in this, because at this point, if there are other village improvement societies which only periodically ask for money, and Soamesville's need for money shifts considerably. The only one that has a semi-consistent request, which has a larger discussion perhaps, but is the Seal Harbor one, because they have an employee and they take care of something larger.
Sure.
That would be the only one, and then that I would think might even belong. And if we do that, then we're butting up against other problems. But I guess I would recommend just leaving them all in this.
In which case the number is $176,219 compared against $172,248 last year.
Okay. Good.
Can you give us those one more time, please?
Sure. $176,219 this year. And $172,248 last year.
Okay, thank you.
Bill.
Yeah, I'm in support of leaving all the village improvement societies off the list, and I think they should come year to year. I don't think that they should become.
Yeah.
You at this time. I think it's what, like Jeff says, it's too fluctuated, and I think it's just a smart move, and it sets a bet. It could put us in a situation where we don't want any animosity, and we don't want floating numbers each coming in here to feel like they have to fulfill it. They do get a lot of donations.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that, no, I think they belong here. It's easier.
Well, I would make a motion is that where we're at, right? I would make a motion that we approve $176,219 towards the nonprofit funding request fund.
I would second that.
All in favor? Okay. Continue the review and votes on the 2026 annual town meeting warrant articles. Okay, there aren't very many.
Here we go.
Okay. Are we ready? This is the very last thing in business.
Yeah. Got it.
Mhm.
I don't have it.
It was in last week's, but I don't have any of those in the
Good.
the packet, but here's some extras.
Thank you.
Where are they in the packet? In the old business?
Then
In old business?
Oh, they're not, okay, well, we're looking for the yellow and lighted, thank you.
Oh.
Never mind,
Okay, you ready, guys?
sure.
Article 3, to see if non-voters shall be allowed when recognized to speak during the 2026 annual town meeting.
I would recommend passage.
Seconded.
All in favor? Article 16, to see if the inhabitants of the town of Mount Desert will vote to grant the transfer of land to Island Housing Trust by good and sufficient quitclaim deed without covenants, comprised of a portion of land owned by the town that is Farnham's Way in an amount sufficient to provide the remaining portion of map lot 010-048-001-001 and a portion of land owned by the town that is Sydney's Way in an amount sufficient to provide the remaining portion of map lot 010-048-001-009 as described in the amendment to the Ripple Hills subdivision approved by the town of Mount Desert Planning Board on January 8th, 2025, and further to authorize the select board or its designee to execute any and all contracts and documents and do any and all things necessary or convenient to accomplish the transfer.
I would recommend passage.
Second.
Good. Any discussion? Did everyone understand that?
Well, this is basically to expedite the extension of what already had happened on Farnham's Way before the new set of homes is working.
That's right.
So that they don't have to go through the whole rigmarole to get this next section. It's just,
Well, there was a land transfer when we accepted the road.
right.
And portions of what are actually the lots for, I think it's lot 1 and lot 9 of what was approved at the revised subdivision plan requires a portion of those roadway widths.
Okay.
There was some extra parking that was part of it. So there's turnarounds, deadheads, because the roads don't go all the way around. We don't need that anymore. Or the road, because the road will be continuous all the way around. We don't need to be able to turn
Okay.
emergency vehicles around. It becomes part of the lots because of the way they configured those next 9 lots. So we need to give that little bit of land back. It's just some corners and slivers.
Yeah, I remember that it just made sense for the whole.
All right.
Yeah.
Good. Anybody else? Anybody? Okay. Do we take a motion? We made a motion. Second, all in favor? Thank you. Article 35, to see what sum the inhabitants of the town of Mount Desert will vote to raise and appropriate for Department 200 through 211, General Government, Governing Body, Select Board, Municipal Management, Town Clerk, Registrar Elections, Planning Board, Finance Treasurer, Tax Collector, Assessment Code Enforcement, Unallocated Funds, Human Resources, Technology and Contracted Municipal and Community-Oriented Services for the 26-27 town budget.
The select board recommends $2,341,614.
I read 2,343,000. Is that?
Yeah.
Is that what I said?
No.
Oh, sorry. $2,343,614.
I'll second that.
Sorry.
Good. Any discussion?
What is unallocated?
Oh, that's a mix of, it's mostly areas where employee benefits didn't really go well into one department. So there's an HRA plan that's part of that, and a few other areas like unemployment where it doesn't make sense to put it into a single department. It's a pretty small piece of the overall benefit puzzle, but it's basically those particular odds and ends that just don't
Is it
work.
like a miscellaneous type thing?
Call it miscellaneous benefits. So it's benefits that just don't go into a department well.
Can I ask also, why is this one later sort of than the typical?
Yes, the MOUs are what is referred to CMCOS, and we hadn't gone through
Got
the
it.
MOUs yet when we did that
Fair
one.
enough. Thank
So
you.
it sort of fits on there kind of awkwardly.
Perfect.
Okay, good. All right. All in favor? Excellent. Article 46, to see what sum the inhabitants of the town of Mount Desert will vote to raise and appropriate for Department 851 Village Improvement Societies and Public Social Service Agencies for the 2026-27 town budget.
I forgot that it was right there.
Yeah.
Looking for it.
So we should take the
We-
66,000 out, right?
The warrant articles are written to put those two into two separate categories, so that's why the 176,219 is in there. So we're just repeating what we did for
Okay.
the warrant articles last
Yeah.
year.
But the 66 isn't part of the 176?
It is, so it's the 110 and the 66 make up the 176.
Oh, okay.
Which could have been the number that we had.
That's the same number.
Yeah, that's okay. Okay.
But we
Okay, we don't- we
included the
already-
66 in the nonprofits. So shouldn't we only approve the 110?
We shouldn't approve, but we already make a recommendation?
This is the source of confusion. See, this is how it's been written in the warrant for a while to come, so it seems to, it goes into this category on the warrant, but that's why you all see me getting a little struggling with where this should go.
But we already had a motion to approve 176, and now we're just rubber stamping it for the warrant.
We're approving the
Okay.
article.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
So are you ready for a motion then? I would recommend that the select board recommends $176,219.
Second. All in favor?
I think my comment for next year would be to separate out these warrant articles entirely, because the manner in which we're grouping things together isn't entirely working. Yeah. Similar to the MOU is sort of.
Right, but the MOU, I mean, I guess the idea was that we'd always not, maybe we'd have to change something that beyond my understanding, but that we voted on the amount which can be changed at town meeting, and that the amount we vote on is based on what people request, but what people request is not necessarily what they will end up getting. Those, if the whole thing is reduced by 10% on the floor of the town meeting, we could choose to reduce them all by 10%, or we could strip away 10% of them, and that's not under the purview of the town. That's our decision, and that's why they're all lumped together, I think.
Mhm. Yeah.
That's my understanding. I don't know. Yeah, we'll figure it out by next year.
Yeah, sure. No, yeah, we will.
Sorry.
Okay, review and reject the bid from Gardner Concrete in the amount of $1,079,047 for the rehabilitation of the Northeast Harbor tennis courts and ice rink installation, and further to authorize and direct the Public Works Department to rebid the project.
I've come to this board before on with single bids where I've proposed to reject a single bid. I think what you get with a single bid is not a good indication of potentially where the market is for particular services that you're looking for, and also want to look at, you know, the way in which we were bidding it, the time frame that we were asking for in terms of scheduling, and we went back and looked at potential for modification of the schedule. I think it's in the interest of the town to rebid this, and I think we can be successful with a rebid on this particular project.
I would move that we reject the single bid and authorize the Public Works Department to rebid the project.
We have a little discussion on this first.
After it's moved and seconded.
I'll second it.
Ben Moore, is the project over budget, or what's the reason in here for? You know, I mean, you only had one bid, but now the bidders, now the numbers are all out there. They may not even bid the second go around, and others already know, you know, what their bid is. I mean, has there been any discussion to see if any value engineering can be done to cut out some of the extras in it and get it back to where it's in budget, to work with contractor that did bid it?
The only way you'd be able to do that is to accept the bid first and then go back and do change orders if you were going to make modifications to the way the specifications were written at that time, which I'm not proposing to go down that road. We could potentially do that with whatever winning bidder is the next time around, if there's a need to come and reduce the budget at that time. But that would be a later step. It wouldn't be part of what we would do now.
What's gonna change in the second round that more people are gonna show up to bid?
Probably the one thing that would drive it would be timing of the project, so that we have a greater capacity to change the schedule on when things get done so that it can fit into more contractor schedule and hopefully have more responses from contractors.
And how much over budget is it? And this was all voted on at town meeting last year.
That's part of the funding, but the other part of the funding is donations, and we're trying to be as responsible with all of that money as possible by getting the best bid we can.
And I mean, there's stuff in there like car chargers and there's some extra things in there that don't necessarily need to be there for the tennis courts.
Which all be considered once you've gotten past the point of accepting a bid, and then you can negotiate change orders for how you might modify things and potentially take something like that out.
Okay.
Question.
Yes.
I don't remember what the last things that were bid out at. You all received maybe only 3 bids the last time I was at the selectmen's meeting last month. And
Probably the parking lot over here.
The
Yes.
Great Cow. It was the Great Cow in the old firehouse lake, and yet only 3 bids were received. Are you hoping for 3 bids?
Yeah.
And if you don't get 3 bids the next time this is bid out, what happens then?
We'll have to look at those bids and the quality of the bids at that time, and then we'll have to make a determination what we do to go forward at that point. I don't want to speculate too much on what we do, depending on, you know, how many there are, what the price, what the costs are.
It just seems like there aren't multitudes of bidders coming forward saying, oh, pick me, pick me. You only got 3 for the last job and only got 1 for this job. I think we're pretty lucky we got 1.
I don't think 3 is that terrible of a number of bids to have for a project like that. And we did get a better sense of what the market was. There were 2 that were relatively close and 1 that was fairly high. So we got a better understanding of costs of that particular project, I think.
All right. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor of the move to reject? Okay, MDES budget review. Oh.
I'm Heather Dodd, principal at Mount Desert Elementary School. I'm here to present our proposed budget for fiscal year 2027. This next school year, 26-27. I want you to know that when I was preparing this budget, I was keeping in mind that every dollar we request is earned by the residents of this town, and wanted to acknowledge the strain of property ownership that is a heavy reality. The goal for creating this budget is to present a budget that is ambitious for students, but also protective of taxpayers. And we did our best to balance high impact programming with fiscal discipline. So I'm going to take a few minutes to showcase our successes and then consider the financial foundation that's required to sustain these successes. Our current enrollment is 145 students, and the budget that is presented is for 150 students. We are promoting 12 8th graders this June, and right now we have 7 pre-K students signed up for screening, but we also know of at least 1 upcoming request for a superintendent's agreement, and then we always have a handful of families that move into the area over the summer. This past school year, this past fall, we had 6 additional families join our community. So we wanted to make room for anyone that might be coming in new next year. So our core values are safety, respect, responsibility, and perseverance. If you're a student at MDES or a parent of a student, you're familiar with these core values, and you'll see respect, responsibility, and perseverance on the walls, on the report card. Students reflect on them regularly. They are our habits of work. So keeping in mind that this budget is designed with respect for taxpayers by minimizing our non-tax revenue, maximizing our non-tax revenue, and responsibility by making thoughtful cuts to operations that will offset necessary capital improvements. So in the past, and hopefully again this year, our town does support a high budget and has high expectations for the outcomes. Based on our nationally normed standardized assessments, MDES students are performing in the 63rd percentile in the state, which is a reflection of our rigorous coursework and our highly qualified, high effective teachers and staff. 33% of our students do qualify for free or reduced lunch. I do think it's important to note that my first year at MDES, this is my third year, so 2 years ago, the free and reduced lunch rate which is students whose families qualify for that free and reduced lunch rate, that percentage was 11%, and last year it was 24%. So that is an important number to keep an eye on as we're considering the needs of students that come into our community. 27% of our student population receives specialized services and accommodations through an IEP, individualized education plan, or a 504 plan, which affords them accommodations to provide or ensure access to their education. So 27% do receive IEP and 504 services, and 7% of our students are engaging in advanced or enrichment curricular programs that are facilitated by our gifted and talented teacher. And that is a position that is new this year. It's a 50% gifted and talented teacher who's also the other half math specialist. So our goal is to prioritize the whole child. We do implement a multi-tiered system of support, and this is how we can ensure that our small school offers big opportunities for our students. We want to make sure that every student thrives. We do have 33% of our 8th grade math class taking Algebra 1, and that is taught by our gifted and talented teacher / math specialist. We also have opportunities for students beyond our general classroom. So we have students this year. We have a show choir that is for MDES students, and then Tremont and Pematic students also join. Our show choir this year is performing The Lion King. They did a great job at their district festival and qualified for states. Our jazz band also qualified for states. That's a program that Heather Graves has been keeping solid and strong for many years. New this year, we're starting a science and engineering club. So 3 days a week after school, we have a pretty large group of middle school students that come in, and it's kind of like an open lab where they can explore just any interest or inquiry projects that they choose, or they can build off of something that is taught in the regular general science curriculum. And then we also have our school-based athletics, cross country, soccer, basketball. We do an intramural floor hockey, and then we have baseball and softball. And then our students also, we had a couple of students participate in volleyball and golf at other schools in the district. And then experiential learning. We want to make sure that kids have an opportunity to apply the skills and knowledge that they're learning in the classroom in real world settings. We do a lot of outdoor learning, technology integration. We use our garden and greenhouse regularly and frequently. And then we also have a highlight of the year, which is our Arts Week, that is organized and facilitated by Shannon Westfall. She has a series of, or several resident artists that come in and work with our students. And then they showcase their artistic creations for the week at the end of the week. So just a quick snapshot of our staffing. Our average student to teacher ratio is 12:1. Our staff, teachers and staff are our greatest asset. And our ratio allows us to make sure that students receive individualized and customized attention. Sorry. And I wanted to also showcase some of the ways that our school supports and reaches out across the community. So this year we started a food pantry that is supported by, it's overseen by our school nurse and supported by school staff. Right now we have 3 families that are using it regularly. They come in every Friday and pick up some grocery bags of non-perishable foods, and when we can, some fresh fruits and vegetables. Every other week, they also receive laundry detergent, dish detergent, cleaning products, personal hygiene supplies, and things like that. It is open to anyone that wants to stop by on Friday. It's in our snack shack off the gym. There's a refrigerator with some items, and the cupboards are filled with items as well. And anyone in the community is invited to come in and shop in the food pantry. Our staff stocks it. We also use funds from Hannaford Helps, which is a program that when you shop at Hannaford, you can drop your Hannaford Helps dollars into the slots. It's probably done electronically now, but and then that accumulates funds that are then donated to the school. So we use those funds to stock the food pantry as well. Our greenhouse and garden are going to be included in the Bar Harbor Garden Club's open garden tour this summer. So we're really excited about that. Ms. Patty has a punch list of things we need to do to get it ready, with some trimming of hedges and getting things cleaned up. And then supporting our garden program, our 5th graders host a seedling sale. So the kids in April will plant seeds and grow seedlings in the greenhouse, and then 5th graders will set up on the sidewalk across from the library and are open for business selling seedlings. So that's something that they all look forward to. And then we also have so our 6th graders do a food drive for Thanksgiving, and they, before we break for Thanksgiving, they deliver everything they've collected to the Bar Harbor Food Pantry. And in a couple weeks, they're actually going back to the food pantry to spend some time stocking shelves and cleaning and whatever the food pantry needs them to do. So it's an opportunity for them to give to their community and practice some civic responsibility. The next slide's blank. You can go to the next one. I can't get it to go away. So another piece of our budget is intended to protect town assets. The town last May voted for a bond that would fund our building project. So these are strategic investments that ensure that the facility remains functional for many years to come. This summer, we'll be finishing our new pre-K playground. A deck will be installed. A door from the pre-K classroom onto the playground will be put in place so that kids can go right from the classroom to the enclosed pre-K playground. There will also be a hard surface installed to make the space ADA, not just ADA compliant, but ADA accessible. there will be a ramp installed as well. So that'll finish off that piece. In the fall, we hope to begin construction on a new maintenance garage that will allow us to keep our school vans on campus during the winter. Right now, they're up at the bus garage, which makes it a little tricky to get them when we need them. And then that will also house the tractor and other maintenance equipment. And then in the next summer 2027, there's much needed building envelope work, replacing brick veneer and addressing some leaky parts in the brick, and just cleaning that up to make it last for much longer. Next. So this is the bottom line of the budget that is presented. Our total operating budget with the debt service is $6.49 million. Well, $6,495,772. For the town appropriation, we'd be with the debt service be requesting $5,644,188. That is an increase of 7.44% from last year, and a difference of $12.90 per $100,000 of property valuation. But I would very much like to take an opportunity to walk you through the different parts of the budget to help you understand the impact of the debt service on kind of looking at the operational budget versus the debt service. So to keep the impact as low as possible on taxpayers, we've increased the use of carryover by nearly 90%, 89.75%, which reflects strong fiscal management and direct savings. We are going to see an increase in our state subsidy, so that is also up 6.25%. And then if we peel away the debt service for just a minute, you'll notice that the town appropriation is actually down 4.16%. And that's if we look at just the operational budget. Something that I want to point out is that to make up the difference with the debt service versus without, we would be required to cut programming in order to keep that difference or that that difference low. Our operational budget is nearly flat. So it's the debt service that's really causing the increase. Excellent. And this is just breaking down the different articles or cost centers. So it's important to note that our negotiated collective bargaining agreement, our negotiated salaries show an 8.03% increase for teacher salaries and a 5.3% increase in support staff salaries. Despite these increases, there's only a modest increase in the regular instruction cost center. This is where regular instruction teachers and ed tech salaries, supplies, equipment, also where our experiential learning opportunities come in. We're peeling back a bit our supply line with a foundation of $70 per student for general supplies. And this line also would provide projection technology for some of our classrooms. Our projectors are becoming outdated. They no longer make the bulbs for the projectors that we have. So those are in need of replacement. There is significant savings in our special education cost center, and this is mostly driven by the reduction of an ASL interpreter. That position will no longer be needed at our school next year. So there was some cost savings there. And then in other instruction, we have our summer school and homework club. This is also where our extracurriculars and co-curriculars, athletics and like show choir and jazz band and things like that. looking at the operational costs or budget, student and staff support, we contract our services, or we have a memorandum of understanding with the library. And so I've requested a 2.8% adjustment for library services. And then our school clinic is in need of a new audiometer, which is what is used for hearing screenings. Ours is really, really old. So we're hoping to replace that. And then we are requesting $10 per student for a supply budget for the nursing. System administration, MDES covers 11.93%, or our share of the AOS 91 central office costs is 11.93%. And then for our school administration, we're looking at what is it? PLD, participating local district, yes, recovery for a couple of our employees, and then updating our summer office hours. This is also where field trips are covered, and then we are reducing our postage expenses by emailing our report cards, which is a relief for my office staff and that line in our budget. We do have lease payments for 2 of our buses, and that is driving the transportation line increase. And the price of food and the salaries and benefits for our food service personnel are driving the increase for our food service departments. If you haven't had the opportunity to see the food that is served in our cafeteria, we are very fortunate, and it's beneficial to our students. We do a offer instead of serve, so students, even our pre-K students up through 8th grade, all have access to a beautiful salad bar with fresh vegetables and fruit. And then our chef Tasha makes delicious meals for students to enjoy, to nourish their bodies midday. Next slide. Our facilities maintenance is where we have removed or no longer have the capital outlay costs. We saved $100,000 there. And this is where we try to offset the debt service as much as possible. So the routine maintenance, like scrubbing our gym floor and our heating and electricity costs, those stay, but other projects, building projects would be part of that bond, so the debt service for the bond. We do have reserve funds, and these are the balances that are anticipated at the end of June. So these are reserves that would allow us to cover any unexpected burdens on taxpayers, so that we can cover those within our reserves instead of requesting additional funds should one of our cost centers exceed what we have. And that is the end of my presentation. I do want to thank you. I believe that our budget reflects the community's high standards, but also recognizes the need for fiscal responsibility. So I appreciate your consideration.
Thank you. Any questions?
I had one about the Blue Cred's always a question every year. I know they have to estimate.
What?
The Blue Cross Blue Shield on in the goes up. The difference is 28.85%, but it's based on a 10% rate increase. Do you maybe
Plan changes and personnel changes can fluctuate that
number.
Okay, so that, I mean, that's almost triple the estimated rate increase.
But if we take this current staff, what they are having now for health insurance and extrapolate that out with a 10% increase, that's what it is.
Okay.
Right, well, thank you, Heather. Okay, Kevin Snyder.
Keep this off a little bit. We don't have anything necessarily in the packet for this tonight. This is more of a opportunity to discuss and to ask questions of Kevin and for him to talk a little bit about Dane Farm and what's coming up with them and Friends of Acadia and to answer any questions you might have. But there is no action for tonight's agenda on this.
Thank you for making a little bit of time. I'm joined tonight by Eric Stiles, the president and CEO of Friends of Acadia. And tonight, the reason why we're here is to talk about Dane Farm, as Alex indicated. And ultimately, the park is looking for an expression of support for the park's acquisition of this. This is a parcel that Friends of Acadia acquired in 2023 and built. It's an in-holding within the boundary of Acadia National Park. FOA built a 5-bedroom housing unit, a 3-bedroom housing unit on the site for our employee housing. And we used it successfully. The construction was completed last spring. We used it this past year for employee housing. We had 8 critical seasonal employees living there, folks like custodians, search and rescue rangers, equipment operators, interpreters that work in our visitor center, education maintenance. Yeah, John.
Just for everybody's benefit, just to explain where that is, where Dane.
Yeah, I'm sorry. So this is along, most of you are probably familiar with it. It's a site along the Jordan Pond Road, right at the sort of park's end of the Jordan Pond Road, near where it intersects with the town section of that roadway. Across from the cemetery, down the street from Howie. And it's a site that was owned by the Rockefeller family for many years. It was kind of known, I think, we called it as the quarry lot. It had a gravel quarry that was used for their maintenance of their carriage roads. And when that function was no longer necessary, they sold it to FOA. FOA acquired it and built those 2 housing units on it. And in the course of that planning and design for those housing units, we did sort of multiple community engagements. Eric and I did a couple of community meetings at the Seal Harbor Firehouse, where we invited anyone in the neighborhood who was interested to come in. We talked about the design plans, asked for feedback on those designs, and made like some adjustments on the design. You know, there are questions about, for example, the noise from the HVAC units. The biggest thing that came out of those community engagements was a conversation about delivery vehicles using Jordan Pond Road that were servicing the Jordan Pond house. That was a concern that really we heard from the neighbors, that the delivery vehicles were utilizing the roadway, and could we instead direct them to use the Stanley Brook Road into the park instead. We came to the select board in August of 2023. Some of you may remember Eric and I both to talk about that issue. And ultimately we were able to work with the Jordan Pond House to reroute that traffic and ask them to use Stanley Brook Road to the park, so they're not using that residential road. So I think that was a very positive outcome from the discussion, and for the most part, having talked to the neighbors, those delivery really have ceased. So I think that's been a very positive thing. Eric also had several conversations with Derlin as well, and multiple one-on-one conversations with individual stakeholders and neighbors as FOA was in the planning and construction phase for that. And ultimately, just like all other entities, we need employee housing. Employee housing is critical for us to house our workforce. We need to hire as many as 150 summer seasonals to run Acadia National Park. We've come up well short of that for the last several years. But this site, along with another site in Bar Harbor that we're building called the Hardin Farm site that's near the Kibo Golf Course, really are critical to employee housing. And in fact, the funding, when we purchased this from Friends of Acadia for the market value, FOA has actually turned that funding right around and donated it back to the park to be used for the construction at Hardin Farm in Bar Harbor. So it's sort of like the funding from the sale of this parcel will come right back in to support further employee housing development
Katy National Park. So I'm happy to answer any questions. Eric, is there anything I missed that you feel like we should mention?
No, I was just, I want to thank Derlin and folks from the town. Brian gave us some, I think, really good input. We wanted to be good community members. We ended up cost sharing with the town on the radar sign, adding a second sign to Jordan Pond House. Great conversations with the community. A lot of living rooms, sitting down to try and address concerns, including, trying to remember, is Charlie that recommended the cedar signing. I'm trying to remember, but we wanted to make sure that it fit in tastefully. As Kevin said, it was already, we didn't chop a tree. We've added trees to that site. So really work with the community to try and increase the curb appeal as well. So we're excited. I think working with the park, we're trying to make sure that we don't compete with the local market. So by buying this and holding within the park, we're adding units rather than competing with other employers in the area to try and provide these solutions.
Does this parcel pay property taxes?
We do currently, yes.
And will you, when it makes the transfer?
Yeah, anything in the park, we pay payment in lieu of taxes, which is not the full property tax rate, but it's a payment in lieu of taxes.
Any more questions?
I've got just an issue. The last time I had a meeting with you, we were talking, and this is Otter Creek, but it's still in the town. I said to you that everything you do down there affects a whole village full of people. You told me you're not one bit concerned about that whole village full of people. You still feel like that?
I'm sorry, I'm not sure when that was, but
there was three of us met with you, and when you said that, I asked you for a copy of the recording of the meeting, and you told me you don't record them, which whether you do or not, I didn't get one. But
I certainly recognize the park works within the context of communities, and we do that, you know, in all of the communities that we're in, whether it's, you know, Mount Desert or Bar Harbor, and we want to be a good neighbor and work with folks to resolve the issues that we see. It's certainly very important to me, and always happy to, you know, address any concerns that the select board may have. I've enjoyed, you know, working with Alex over the last couple of months and Derlin beforehand. Certainly, if there's issues, I'm happy to always be open and available to talk about them.
Anybody else? Kevin, thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate your consideration.
No, John, I should probably just say one quick thing that, you know, I totally support what the park
This is Howie, by the way.
Oh, I'm sorry. Howie Motankle, Seal Harbor. And also, what is it, a member, advisory commission member on the Katy National Park. So, you know, I think that what they're doing there is a great thing. They have responded to the community. I understand the concerns at Otter Creek. I've come here to talk about those as well. And, you know, and I think, you know, from my understanding, they are trying to work through those problems, Rodney, you know, through some kind of means of a land swap in the future.
well, I was just in general,
Yeah.
talking in general.
Yeah.
This is all part of the town.
No, I agree with you. Yeah, it is all town business. Sure. But I'm just trying to say, you know, in this case, I think that they have gone way above and beyond what we would normally expect, especially for rerouting the traffic. I mean, those are, you know, streets that anyone can drive on. So.
Yeah, I'd like to add my 2 cents. I think it makes obvious sense. Really. It's great. You already have some dormitories tucked away back there, don't you?
Yeah, so the pond house has a dormitory kind of adjacent to the pond house that the employees of the pond house use.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, the gatehouse is used for our employee housing as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we need, you know, in order to have 150 employees, we basically need 150 beds.
Mm-hmm.
So this is crucial to our business. And then the development of Hardin Farm, that this will help offset those costs, is another 56 beds that we're building at Hardin Farm. So that's a much larger development. And then, of course, long term, you know, there's also the transfer station parcel. It's in Town Hill. We've worked collaboratively with all 4 towns on the island. That's in Bar Harbor, but you know, we expect that will have development potential, significant development potential. We've worked with FOA and the Island Housing Trust to acquire the access to that parcel. Again, for those who aren't familiar with, this is sort of off of Crooked Road in Town Hill. It doesn't currently have actual access, though it has a legal right of access, and we're working to secure that. And that'll ultimately allow for more year-round employee workforce housing for all communities on the island. So that's going to be another really important piece to play in the sort of workforce housing puzzle.
So, Lily Pugh, I'm a resident of Sioux Harbor on the Jordan Pond Road, a neighbor of Howie and a neighbor of Dane Farm, and I've just been so impressed with the communication by Friends of Acadia and the park with the local community. That whole effort was so collaborative, and to see these housing projects come together. I always think about the larger economic impact for our little towns, and how that has helped us over the course of years and years and decades. And I just fully support the town supporting this. So thank you very much.
Cool. Thank you. Anyone else? Thanks.
Thank you.
Consideration of possible public space application, Island Readers and Writers.
Hi there. My name is Celine Martin, and I'm the literacy coordinator for Island Readers and Writers in Southwest Harbor. We're a nonprofit that was established in 2006 with a mission to inspire a passion for reading and learning in children on remote coastal islands and rural communities in Washington and Hancock County. We bring book-based experiences, including author and illustrator visits, professional development, and community enrichment programs. We've received a grant from the Stroud Fund to provide some story times at farmers markets and food pantries on Mount Desert Island. The grant's called Book Bites. And at the story time, we read and model effective practices, and each family receives a free book. That's a featured book that we've read, with a storytime guide to extend the learning at home with a tote bag. Our goal is to strengthen early literacy skills in 3 to 5-year-olds and families and help prepare children for kindergarten. We realize parents as a child's first teacher, and we want to reach families where they already gather to provide engaging, interactive story times and help families and caregivers feel confident using these strategies that we model at home. Our goal is that this program will ensure that all children, regardless of economic circumstance, have the strong early literacy foundation that they need to thrive in school and the MDI community. Many families struggle with the cost and accessibility for preschool and childcare in communities. I'm here to ask about using the space next to the farmers market to have 1 to 2 story times for children and families this summer. We approached Sean Murphy. He is the person that's the head of the farmers market, and they don't have any available space. It's all being taken by vendors. Sean told us that there is a spot next to the farmers market that the town approves for use at times. And I'm here to ask if we could use that space for a story time this summer. We think it's a wonderful opportunity for the communities to support early literacy for children and families in the community. And we want to know if you would approve an application if we applied.
What is this space that's next to it? This is the new guy talking here. Is there a space next to the farmer's market that's a different space?
Is it like under the tree?
Bill?
I think it was the space that Meg Asher used last summer to support the sustainability committee's projects in town, and used it mostly as like an information table. So it beats if the long line just so between the food trucks and the farmers market, just to be as like a general geographic area down on the village green. I'm supportive of having story time. What a nice thing.
I would say though, your policy limits one event at a time. So if you want to entertain something like that, I think you might want to review your policy and maybe make some amendments or something.
Is your thought to do something that at every farmer's market or like 3 times throughout the
Yeah,
summer?
it would be 2 times throughout the summer.
And you'd have specific dates that you were gonna
Yes.
Well, what are you saying that you couldn't do that and a farmer's market at the same time?
According to your public space policy.
So my question would be then, I mean, is the space that we're talking about part of the same space that's currently? So, I mean, Sean doesn't have any space available in what he's decided is this farmer's market, but what he's decided is not, in fact, inclusive of what we could allow. I mean, we could allow her to join, tag on without having an application at all if we make it, but then we got a problem with potentially Sean deciding to expand the fund. Yeah, okay.
I think on my end, for something that has to, you want it outdoors, you don't necessarily want it in a building somewhere.
Yes.
Sounds as though the problem is that we can't really accept an application for a separate event at this time. We could.
Bill's got an idea, but does it have to be on the same day as the farmer's market? That would simplify things and probably uncreate any issues that they're speaking of now. So if you did that, or after the farmer's market ended, have it start at 1 o'clock instead of, because the farmer's market is pretty much from 9 to 12.
That's a possibility. The way the grant was written, it stipulated that these story times would take place at food pantries or at farmers markets. So we are somewhat limited to that, but the possibility of doing it after the farmers market is a possibility.
Understand, in my head, as I think about how big that village green space is, it's pretty big. I don't understand why the farmer's market couldn't be in their little line like they always are, and the story time couldn't happen at the picnic table underneath the tree.
Well,
We're not talking about.
Because it's 2 events.
It could, but the policy stipulates that there's one event application to be approved at a time. I think that there's probably something we can figure out, and luckily we have some time. I don't think anybody's suggesting it's not a good plan and it's not a good idea, but we just don't know how to do it exactly right now.
Yeah.
Is that?
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment.
Because we're actually working on the policy at this time, a new policy, like maybe we could.
Right.
Okay.
I think what I'd really like us to get clear on is, my understanding is that section is designated as one area for which an application occurs. And if I'm now hearing that it's possibly multiple areas, we would have to turn that into multiple areas as opposed to just one. And so that's the struggle here that I'm seeing.
Would that have to be permanent or just as people come and go, like it might be 3 different events one time, but one another time? Or...
I don't know. I got to get eyes on the map for this to understand better what the exact layout here is.
Yeah.
So I think what we're saying is we support your idea, but we need to sort of sit down at the drawing table and figure out the policy to try to make it work for your grant.
Navigate our own bureaucracy.
Yeah.
Great.
But don't lose hope, okay?
All right. Well, thank you. I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to speak to you about it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Claire, for bringing that up. That's.
So can we invite her back at another time? I think that'd be a warm thing to say right now.
What do we think, 2 weeks?
Sure. I think we just need to spend a little time understanding and also talking to the farmers market as well on this. So the next meeting would be in 2 weeks, and we probably should be able to get to it by then.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
You want to come back in 2 weeks?
Sure. Yep. Be happy to. Thank you.
Okay.
Can I just ask, can we ask the farmer's market?
I intend to.
to add them as a vendor and use that space? Wouldn't that make?
Well, the
I
problem
think that was
then-
the issue.
They can stall, to speak up, they wouldn't be taking the stall, they'd be away from the market. So I think they have so many vendors that they allow in the stalls. And that's capped is what I think Sean Murphy, you know, who I know, is what he's saying, but we.
think there's a way.
I think having Alex reach out to Sean to come up with some way to accommodate them. What a nice thing to be able to have the kids
No,
have story time.
Okay.
Literacy.
Exactly. This is the same group that Jan Coates was involved in. It's got a really
Good
good
group.
history.
It is a good group.
Good group.
with the town.
I agree.
And thank you for being
It happened,
trying to
but-
accommodate it.
I don't think we want an application.
So,
Peg, you're it.
item E. Consider holding a special town meeting in conjunction with the state primary on June 9th, 2026 to vote on a referendum to consolidate schools into an RSU.
The RPC has been working for the last 2 years on creating a proposal to turn AOS 91 into an RSU. And so we are asking to have that vote on primary day. Would require a special town meeting, but we figured that would be the easiest way to do that. And if you'd like, I could share a little bit about the proposal. We had our special meeting in the fall at the neighborhood house and had a good showing there. And the basic proponents of the plan that are required by the state are, number one, you have to have and decide what your governance body would be. So that governance body would be a structure of 15 members. 3 of those members would be from Bar Harbor. 3 of those members would be from Mount Desert. 2 members from Southwest Harbor, 2 from Tremont Trenton, and the outer islands all have 1 member. And what would happen, that would be your sole legislative body for the school district as a whole. Each school would then have a local school advisory council. The purpose would be to provide local input and advice to the RSU board and the school principal as a dedicated avenue for community support. There would be members of the principal would be on that committee, an RSU board member from the town of Mount Desert, teachers, support staff members, parents, and with the middle school, potentially students on that. And they would advise on everything from budget priorities, capital improvement, inputs for the, just maintaining the culture of each individual school, similar as what a board would do. For finance and properties, school buildings, the RSU, doesn't assume ownership of the school buildings. There is an important protection within state law that where the RSU board cannot unilaterally close a school. A school can only be closed if it's replaced by a new building and approved by local voters of the town. So that's an important protection for towns and their buildings. The assumption of debt is another part of the plan that has to be addressed. Capital debt, construction and renovation, that current debt remains with the originating town. So the $6 million that town of Mount Desert put towards their building, they hold on to that. Bar Harbor's debt stays with Bar Harbor, doesn't fold into the operating budget for the new school union. Operational debt, so bus leases, copier leases, those type of things are assumed by the RSU. The cost sharing formula would be based on the high school model to start in the first year, which is 67% valuation, 33% enrollment. And so that's the current model that the high school uses for its budget. The RPC chose to move that to an 80-20 for the purposes of flattening the line of costs. When you look at the island overall, we have ranges from Frenchboro of around, if you have a $650,000 home of $8,000 that you might pay towards the cost of education, to Mount Desert, which is somewhere around $1,000, and it ranges in between. The idea of moving from the 67-33 and the 80-20 is to flatten that line. So all the communities are paying similarly for the cost of education for the students that are going to schools from Trenton to the outer islands. Existing funds and reserves. Most of the reserves will be combined into the AOS and used into the RSU and used for the intended purpose. So you had a maintenance reserve that would go into the pot for all of the schools. If you had a bus reserve, that would go into that. The MDI high school reserve is kept separate. The special education reserve that the AOS has, it has about $800,000 in it. That would be used for special education purposes. Local special education reserves are returned to the towns. Personnel contracts, current teachers bargaining unit and the two separate staff agreements remain the same. The teachers unit is a district-wide unit. You would be adding Swans Island and Cranberry Island to that, even though they work underneath the contract, they're not a party to it. And the current support staffs, there are two support staff units within the district. However, they sort of shared in the last round of negotiations, they came together and they'll be joining as one in the next negotiations. Educational programming for pre-K through 12 students will be maintained, and the school structures would be the same, would remain unchanged with the 8 elementary schools and the single high school. And so that's really in a quick round of what the plan is. We'll be holding some more question and answer sessions in the individual towns. We've already been at the neighborhood house lunch, and we're having more people sort of showing up at that to be able to answer questions. But like I said, we'll be doing more presentations around after we did each individual one for each town over since the summer of last year.
Follow on to that from the practical perspective of how this is going to unfold. What will occur is that on the meeting that is May 18th, that will be the public forum for the discussion on that. We're going to hold the select board meeting at the neighborhood house for that one. And the town will be doing some presentations as well regarding this topic. One of the areas that we're going to present in particular will be the impact that the cost sharing formula has to residents of town of Mount Desert, so they can see how that will affect both the overall number and also individual taxes. So that'll be that one. And then, as we mentioned before, what we're referring to as a special town meeting, in essence, for people just in the real language, is that'll be the day of the vote, right? It'll be more of a voting day, but that's the label we put on it as we move towards this. But we'll announce it at the town meeting on May 4th and really try to encourage as many residents to come to the select board meeting at the neighborhood house, May 18th for the town, and for citizens to talk through this as well. Yeah.
You need a motion, or is this just a consideration?
This would be a motion to authorize that special town meeting on June 9th.
I would move that we authorize a special town meeting on June 9th to vote on a referendum to consolidate schools into an RSU.
Second. All in favor?
Can I ask a question? What is the advantage of it?
What are the advantages?
Yeah, over what is already in place?
Well, first of all, when you look at, we'll start with staffing in all of our schools that are part of this district. We are looking at schools, Mount Desert being one of them, that is down to special ed teachers as of next year. Last year, you didn't have a science teacher for a while. And at some of our other schools, staffing is an issue, and it's really difficult within an AOS. You can't just, if you have a need, take a teacher and move them or change their arrangement. That's something that takes more information, where a person would have to apply for a second job, and all of that is really complicated. in terms of specialized programming, gifted and talented, SUN programs with students with unique needs, or a behavior program. It's easier to have that within an RSU. You're able to centralize the needs of that student in a single school, and they're able to then address students to that program so that they are better served than they are right now. Transportation inefficiencies right now, transportation is controlled by each individual school. And we are seeing problems with transportation at MDES. In Tremont, we'll probably be losing 2 drivers. And it would be a lot easier under an RSU to provide busing across the district rather than relying on each school to provide that busing service to the high school. And as we look at dropping demographics within our regions, it'll be a lot easier to preserve the great things that are happening within our individual schools than it would be to work on that alone and ensure that all of our students are going to MDI high school prepared for the programming that they provide for their kids.
But it seems like you'd be taking control away.
I don't think it would be that. I think the advisory councils will play a very large role in providing what the school board is doing right now. And the board will, just as the AOS board has has provided guidance and local control, so to speak, to their individual schools. I don't think that would change at all. It's a matter of changing some of the inefficiencies within the governing structure and to make it more appropriate.
I understand you have favor in this, but do you see a con in it, like a downside?
The downside, the town of Mount Desert will have to pay more money. If I'm thinking of individual towns, that probably will be the biggest thing that I would see.
There is some really great information on the AOS website.
Yeah.
Like, it's really amazing to log in and read through. You've done a really great job of pros and cons and answering questions. And so I encourage people to go there and look at the stuff that you've provided and the notes and the information to come prepared for a meeting like this, to ask good questions, but to read what the information that they've already shared. It's really.
Yeah, and we'll, hopefully as we get into March, April and May, we'll have more community forums where there'll be more question and answers. The first forum we did was more of a presentation, what we're looking at. The next one will be more answering, so just sitting and answering questions.
Yeah.
My name is Gail Marshall. I also serve on the school board. It's an uncomfortable position for me to be in, particularly my long history with the school board, but I don't personally support this plan. And I want to point out that one of its biggest failings from my perspective is that it does not grapple with the efficiencies and opportunities for the future of education in this community. It doesn't do anything about the fact that you have a school system that has a 12-to-1 teacher to student ratio. And that the cost per pupil in a town like Bar Harbor is always lower because they have a greater economies of scale. It's like the third rail that the RPC, this is not a school board plan, by the way, I want to make this clear. It may be on the AOS website, but this is not a plan that has been acted on by the school board itself. This is an RPC plan, and that's two very separate entities. There are school board members on that plan. I'm not on that board, I'm not one of them, but it's a separate thing. And this was an opportunity, it seems to me, a rare opportunity for the RPC to talk about what the future of education should look like for the next 20, 30 years And how should we best position our resources and our opportunities for our communities to meet the educational needs, not of kids there now, not of the needs of parents who maybe had kids that went them there themselves, but what does the future hold and how can we best be prepared to meet that? It seems like there's a third rail that we can't talk about the fact that we're going to maintain all these little elementary schools and we're never going to grapple with the challenges that itself presents. Even as we know that there's going to be an effort to create an individual a middle school, but still we're not going to be able to talk about all these individual elementary schools and how we could best combine our resources to more efficiently and effectively provide educational opportunities for our kids. I had asked Mike at one point, I hope we get this, that there be a calculator so that any taxpayer could find out how they determine what their assessed value of their property is, and they could go to that calculator and plug it in and put that number in and see how their tax bill would change as a result, either up or down, as a result of this proposal, depending on what town they live in. I think that's a critical piece of information that taxpayers are going to need. For me, the question is not whether Mount Desert taxpayers should pay more, but what are we getting for it? What's the advantage for the system and for kids as a whole? I don't object to paying more taxes, but I want to get something for it. And I don't necessarily want to just pay more taxes so that we can continue to do the same thing in all of our individual towns. So I don't like being in this position, but I feel like it's the right thing for me to do. And there's more to say about this, but I'll leave it at that for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Gil.
I'd like to make a comment too. I'm also in a rather uncomfortable position being employed by the school department as an educator. And Mike and I have sat down on several occasions, or at least a couple, to discuss this very topic. And I'm not in favor of this. And I believe that there are some of these outcomes that can be reached. I'm in agreement that we could do a behavior program or a SUN program. We could improve the transportation system without making it into an RSU. And what I said to Mike the first time we sat down is, unless the discussion of this topic starts with improving the outcomes of students, I don't want to talk about it. The outcomes of students have been declining steadily for quite some time. We have less and less data about the high school, I'm not going to besmirch the MDES. My kids and my stepkids all went there, but I don't recall hearing that 63rd percentile in the state was anything like we used to get. And that's not a result of poor educators. That's not because they've got more money than anybody, and we've got more money here. And there are arguments about Bar Harbor there's more to it than that. I have said from the beginning that, it is unwieldy for you to have to go to 12 meetings a month or whatever, but that's not a reason. The only reason we should be doing that is if we have documented evidence that this is going to improve the education of our children. We are graduating students from our high school today that are far less prepared than they were 20 years ago. And that's not okay. Why are we not focusing on that?
Thank you. Anybody else?
Monty, when you took a vote on this item, did you vote yay or nay
For the special town
for
meeting.
the special town meeting?
I guess I didn't vote at all.
Okay,
I guess I'm all for sorry about that.
so what's your vote?
Yes.
I do have a question, and just as a point of reference, this is not an open floor special town meeting, it's a vote only town meeting, correct?
It's a referendum.
That is correct. The May 18th would be more of the open floor town meeting. That's really just a select board meeting, but people are willing,
So we're not gonna have it, there's not gonna be a moderator, and it's not.
oh, you're going to walk through and mark your box.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I already do that, I just wanted to make sure that when people, when they hear the word special town meeting, right, it's a confusing topic. Thank you.
Okay, Mike, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mike.
Okay, now the next item on the agenda is something called informational. We have nothing under informational. This is where all of those items are going to go that we don't actually have to vote on. Okay,
Oh, okay.
so this is kind of makes it easier on us to actually know what we're doing.
If I'd had it together, we would have put Dane Farm under information.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a new line item though, isn't it? We didn't used to have.
No.
Yeah,
This
I
is,
like
this
it.
is my doing.
that's good. I like it. It's good.
And now we have public comment. Does anybody have a public comment? Nope. Okay, other business, any other business? If we're gonna be adding and taking away things here, why do we have both other business and select board report? Okay.
Don't you stop in his office like 12 times a week?
I'm
All
not
right.
sure, but I think it might have been put there in the event something comes up after the agenda's closed. If you want to,
Yeah,
it's, I don't recall it ever really being used except maybe once.
do you think it's something that is for items that might be brought up by the floor? Instead of by the select
It
board?
might be the same thing as public comment, actually,
Yeah.
now that we've got that in there.
Yeah, so we might want to think about getting rid of other business.
Want to.
And not that that's a really big deal, but anyway.
We've got plenty of.
Treasurer's warrants, approval and signature, town invoice AP 2653 in the amount of $1,809,738.66.
Move approval
In case anyone.
and signature.
Why such a big amount? We're gonna get a shiny new fire drill in here any day.
Move approval and signature.
Second.
Good. All in favor? Approval and signature, state fees and payroll benefits, AP 2652 and town payroll PR 2620 in the amount of $340,042.38.
Move approval. Move approval.
So
All in favor?
One abstention, please.
And acknowledgements, school payroll, MDES PR 18 in the amount of $214,241.81.
Move acknowledgement.
Second.
Good, all in favor? And I will take the motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?